Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 15th meeting of the Community Board District 8 Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. I am Kelly Buford. I am the chair of the committee, and with me on the call are David Gelman, Deborah Travis, Mary Ellen Gibbs, Chris Calhoun, and Sylvia Alexander, who are the other committee members. I note that we do have quorum for this meeting, so we can proceed. And I wish everyone a happy Thursday. I'm looking forward to the summer. And as everyone knows, this is the last meeting of the community board for the fiscal year. And the next Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting will be held at some time in September. With that being said, I do know that we do have a robust, I note that we have a robust agenda on the call. And for the chair's report, I will just state that we continue to receive information regarding various street closures and projects in the community, in the district, and we encourage everyone to look at the social platforms of the community board. Also, that you will find links to many of the major projects going on in the district on the Community Board 8 website. And with that, I will move on to the first item on the agenda, which is the approval of the committee meeting minutes of the April 20th, 2023 meeting, and ask if any committee member has any comments about the minutes to direct them to me. Hearing no comments, then I request the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. The minutes of the April 20th meeting are deemed approved. The next item on the agenda is the request for the license renewal application of Veterans Radio Dispatcher Corp. Is veterans, are the representatives from Veterans Radio on the call? Okay, we can give them a few minutes then and move on to the next item on the agenda, which is New York City DOT update on the City Bike program. We have the representatives from New York City DOT on the call. We have Holly Malone, Teresa Cruz, and Renee Luciano. And I don't know who is driving the bus for DOT, New York City DOT, but you can please proceed.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Holly with the Bronx DOT office. Tonight, we are going to present the City Bike draft plan. I am joined by my colleagues, Jesus Soto, Kevin Perez Molina, and Renee Luciano. And from our bike share and shared mobility unit, we have Nick, the operations associate, and Sam Hope, who's the planner, who will be presenting the draft plan this evening. Sam?
Yep.
Hi, Sam. Okay, the floor is all yours.
All right. If I could get the ability to do a screen share, I will show you all my presentation.
Thank you. Deb, can you please give Sam access? While we're waiting for that transition, I just would like to remind everyone that we do follow Robert's Rules of Order for this meeting, and please wait until the chairperson, which is me, Kelly Buford, acknowledges you, and then I will call on you. Each individual who is not the primary speaker will be given an opportunity of no more than 2 minutes to speak. Because we have a full gallery, I would ask that people please adhere to that that guideline. And if we have any time left over, we will then come back to any individuals that may have that may not have been able to express themselves. Thank you.
Sam, you should be able to share now.
All right. Can everybody see my presentation?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, and thanks for inviting us to present at today's meeting. I'm Sam Hope, joined by my colleague Nick Acosta, and we are from the Bike Share and Shared Mobility Unit at New York City Department of Transportation. And we're here to present our draft plan for Community Board 8. So I'll first begin with an overview of Bike Share, then we'll talk a bit about our planning process, and then we will show our draft plan map with the proposed bike share station locations for this community board, and then open it up for questions at the end. So first, let's give an overview of bike share. So, what is bike share? Bike share is a sustainable mode of transportation that is made up of a dense network of shared bicycles. It helps increase mobility around the neighborhood by giving people more options to get around and connect to other modes of transportation. Bike share is great for trips that are like too far to walk, but also too short to take a subway or a taxi. It's also a great complement to other forms of transportation. For instance, it can turn your long walk from the subway to a quick bike ride. The system is available 24/7 and provides all the benefits of having a bike in the city without having to worry about storage or maintenance. What is City Bike? City Bike is New York City's bike share system. It's the largest and most highly used bike share system in the country. It's a public-private partnership between DOT, who is responsible for the system planning and outreach, and Lyft, who's responsible for the
Yo no
day-to-day.
sabe que tú estés
and
haciendo ahí
equipment.
un reguero, nada más te digo, para yo no tenerte que ahorcar.
No city funds are used to run the system. It's supported by revenue generated from the membership and other rider fees. And City Bike is a station-based system. So that means that bikes must be retrieved and returned to docking stations. And these stations are solar powered and they don't require any trenching to the sidewalk. And they can be located on the sidewalk or the roadbed. To give some background on City Bike, it's been operating for over 10 years. Phase 1 was shown in the lightest blue on this map, and it was the original service area that launched with 330 stations and 6,000 bikes. Phase 2 in the medium blue was we doubled the size of the original service area by expanding further into Manhattan, Bronx, and Queens. And we are currently nearing the end of our Phase 3 expansion, which, when it is complete, will have doubled the Phase 1 and 2 service areas again by filling out Manhattan, expanding further into Brooklyn and Queens and into the Bronx. Let's take a look at ridership. City Bike has been very successful and seen lots of growth in its members and rides per day since launch. There are about 100,000 daily trips in peak riding months, and we have about 180,000 annual members. So we see that bike share is a mode of transportation that New Yorkers use a lot, and the city is looking to support that demand. Here's a breakdown of our membership options. There's a single ride option, which is just $4.49 for one point-to-point trip. There are also day pass options, which include unlimited rides for 24 hours. But the most popular membership is the annual membership, which is $200 a year for unlimited rides. There are also reduced fare memberships for NYCHA residents and SNAP recipients, which are $5 a month for unlimited rides with no annual commitment, which means that users would only have to pay for months which they wish to use City Bike. City Bike participates in several community partnerships and programs, including some community grants, which are given to community-based organizations for engagement with low-income and minority populations. For instance, City Bike gives out partner keys for community organizations to expand programming and education. And when it comes to safety, DOT promotes cycling safety with helmet fittings, light and bell giveaways, safety awareness classes, and commercial cyclist workshops. Also, the 2019 Green Wave Plan focuses on improving bicycling infrastructure and bike share expansion areas. And all City Bike kiosks and bicycles have the rules of the roadway posted on them for user safety. Now let's talk a bit about our planning process, which is laid out in these 4 steps, and I'll go into each of these in detail. The success of our bike share system has to do with the high density of stations throughout the service area. The goal of which is to have stations located like every few blocks from each other, so that when someone's in the service area, they're generally like a 3 to 5 minute walk away from a station. So the first thing we do is station siting, which is where we try to find all the technically viable space that a station could be placed. And when searching for these locations, we consider many things like distance to hydrants and utilities, ADA guidelines, and pedestrian clearances on sidewalks. We then do public outreach, where we conduct stakeholder meetings and do in-person outreach with the DOT street ambassadors. We also have a interactive feedback portal where people can virtually suggest a station location or a location that's not suitable for a city bike station. And then this feedback is taken into consideration during the process where we pick out our station locations. And after we identify all of the available space where a station could go, we overlay that with the community feedback as well as Lyft's operational concerns with the locations. And we take out any of the less preferred sites and use the remaining ones to select the locations for our draft plan map. And this is where we are now in the process. So we'll get to that draft plan map in just a few slides. But for next steps, after we publish the draft plan, we will gather feedback on the proposed locations, and we will then do a technical screening of the sites and then release our final plan online and do site-specific outreach and notify the owners of buildings adjacent to where the stations will be placed. And then the stations will be installed, and we'll continue to do outreach and monitor the stations and make any adjustments if necessary. So let's take a look at the draft plan for Community Board 8. Here's an overview of the entire map. And in just a moment, I'll show some zoomed in versions of this map so we can get a look at the individual station locations. And just note that this map is also available online right now at nyc.gov/bikeshare. And we have 4 zoomed in maps to go through. So let's take a brief look at each of them. Then we can start with the questions, and I can cycle back to any of these maps we'd like to get a closer look at. All right, so here's our first one. And the locations are indicated by these orange icons here. The square ones are icons that are, or stations located in the roadbed. The triangles are stations located on the sidewalk. And then the letter inside each of them is the cardinal direction for the side of the street that they'd be placed. So for instance, this one is a station proposed on the sidewalk on the west side of Broadway between West 234th and West 236th. So I'll cycle to the next map. And like I said, we can come back to any of these later. This one's showing the area between Jerome Park Reservoir and Van Cortlandt Park. I'm gonna go to our next corner, which is the area south of Jerome Park Reservoir. And here's our last zoomed in version, which is the southern part of the community board between Tibbetts Avenue and Bailey Avenue. So at this point, we can open it up for questions. I can go back to any of these maps.
Sure. Sam, I noticed that none of the areas shown, none of the maps indicate anything above to the west of Irwin Avenue, which is something that the board really requested that the DOT look into that possibility at their March presentation. Because there are a number of people that expressed interest in the program in that area, but it does not seem as though you have taken that into consideration.
That's a good note. I think the borders for the phase 3 area were determined in a contract many years ago. But I think that if we have a lot of desire for stations east or west of Irwin Avenue, we'll look into the appropriate ways to elevate that, and maybe could make a case for more stations over there.
Okay, that is one of the great takeaways that you should follow up on and come back to us, come back to the community board with a response, because the constituents within that district, that portion of the district, expressly stated that they were interested in having city bikes go to that area.
Okay, great. Nick is
you.
going to make a note of that, and we'll get back to you with the best way to elevate that.
Okay, thank you. David Gelman, committee member David Gelman.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, my chair just sank. Question and a comment. When one takes out a city bike to end your period of renting or using what have you, you must return it to a docking station, correct? Not like Birdie in Yonkers where you can leave it anywhere, correct?
Exactly. They have to be retrieved and returned to docking stations.
Okay. In that case, I think you said that all these docking stations would be within about 3 to 5 minutes. I thought you meant 3 to 5 minutes of people's homes. Actually, except for around the reservoir, they're all within 3 or 4 blocks of a subway station. Which means that, you know, if you live as Kelly was leaning toward, I mean, if you live in those areas, a city bike isn't really going to help you. What you really need to do is go, 10, 20, 30 blocks. And that includes going west of Irwin Avenue, but then there's nowhere for you to dock it. So, it's good for it to be near the subway stations if you can take it somewhere other than a ride around Portland Park. You really do need to do much more, much further away from Broadway and from like Sedgwick Avenue so that people can go somewhere with it and dock it there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
East of Irwin Avenue.
Yeah, very much. And I think if you look at the Kingsbridge Heights area as well, you have similar issues, although you do have a couple around the reservoir, which is better.
Yes.
Chris Calhoun, followed by Deb Travis.
Good evening. My concern is with the roadbed docking stations. Parking is already scarce in our board. Between this coming in and some restaurants that still have the outdoor cafes, I'd like to see more of them be, I guess, off the roadbed because I think it's just going to hurt merchants and it's impossible to find parking even in residential areas when people get home at night. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand. I know our planners try hard as they can to do a balance between sidewalk stations and roadbed stations. There's needs for pedestrian space and parking spaces, so noted.
Deb Travis.
Hi, Sam. Would you mind going to the part that shows kind of Central Reservoir? I think it's one back. I just wanted to, and there's not that one, the north, but the one that's more Van Cortlandt Village. Like Sedgwick Avenue. Maybe.
I believe it was the second map. Yes, that one,
Is it
Deb.
that one? Okay. It's a funny way of splitting it up. I mean, and not a criticism. Overall, I think the placement is generally pretty good. I wanted to ask about all of the docking stations that are in the street. Are they in spaces that are already daylighted? Or is that actually a parking space?
I don't know these stations intimately, but I would assume that they are mostly in parking spaces, like regulated parking lanes.
Because like the one I see just south of Fort Independence Playground, I think is already not a parking space. I think that's the end of probably it's daylighted.
Okay.
You
I
know,
know-
like I just wasn't sure if what your planning criteria was, if daylighted spaces were already part of what you were considering.
I know that we do use city bike stations to daylight sometimes, or put them in daylighting spaces to try to preserve parking in some instances. So that very well could be the case here.
Okay, and I want to just to respond to the comment about putting them near a train station. I think that I agree with David that it would be good to expand this to the other side of Irwin Avenue so that it serves more people to get to the train station. For my purposes, living closer to the reservoir, it's very helpful to have the docking stations at the train station so that we can take a bike from over here on Giles Place or on Sedgwick and go down to the train station and have a place to put it, and then go from the train station back up the hill, or eventually, hopefully, to Irwin Avenue, or, beyond Irwin Avenue, up past Manhattan College and up into Riverdale. So I think that overall it looks good. I was honestly expecting more bikes, particularly in areas like around Orloff Cannon that are kind of shut off, like that you have to walk several blocks to get to other parts. They're not part of a grid, and so. And 238 being steps, it's like it would be helpful to have something, I think, a little bit closer to the folks who live around Orloff and Cannon. But that'd be my only feedback for the reservoir area.
Okay, great. I know we'll make a note of that and bring it back to our planners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. And also to Deb's point regarding the daylighting, when DOT made the initial presentation, we asked them to specifically look at daylighting sites that were already daylighted because of parking being at a premium in this district. And it doesn't seem as though you've captured that in your maps here. Then David, I will come back to you. I would like to give members of the community an opportunity to ask questions, if that's okay. Thank you. Ms. Sura, followed by Mr. Elvis.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
I have never used City Bike and probably never will. I'm a little older. But what I don't understand is what happens if you bring a bike to a docking station and there's no room for it, which is something I assume must happen regularly with popular destinations.
Yes,
Now,
that,
Go ahead.
it does happen often, especially in the more popular areas. So there's like a time limit extension that you can do. You can buy yourself a few more minutes, and then you would just go to the next closest station, which is sort of also benefits us from having stations every couple of blocks from each other.
So that sort of presents a problem for people who are on a time schedule, people who are commuting and need to get to whatever the intended destination was at a certain time. I mean, as a recreational activity, I understand bikes, but I'm finding this a little hard to see as a practical matter. I will mute myself and just leave that as a thought.
Okay, well, I'll address that. What our planners do is we have a data that shows us demand for the area. So we try to keep the amount of stations uniform across the area, but we adjust how many docks there are, and certain like areas that just like high destination areas have much like larger docking stations, so more bikes can like fit there. So you like adjust the size of stations for demand in areas to try to meet that. Like usually you find when stations get really full all the time, it's like really high demand areas like Midtown and things like that. Usually in the outer boroughs, they stay like generally 50% full, so you can always have a bike and always have a place to put it when you're there.
Okay, thank you. And when individuals go to one docking station and they're not able to, their return is not able to be accommodated, there is an additional cost associated with traveling to a destination that's farther away if they've already approached their time limit, correct?
Well, you can extend your time limit if like your destination's full. There's a way to extend it by, I think, 5 minutes or so you can get over to the next station, like the next closest one.
Okay, thank you.
And Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the app also shows this is Holly, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I believe the app also will show if the docking station has availability.
Exactly. So you can sort of plan ahead of time.
Yeah.
Go like this one next to Fort Independence is already full. I'm gonna try and go to the next one over. So you can just sort of aim for that one.
Thank you. Thanks, Holly. Mr. Elvis Machuca, followed by Ms. Rosemary Ginty.
Thank you, Bronx Community Board A, for allowing me to speak. And thank you, the Department of Transportation, for being here and giving us this insight. I have a simple question in lieu to Mr. David initial question in regards to the fare of the bike share system. Is there a surcharge if you leave the bike undocked and want to reuse it again when you come back from leaving it where you leave it? Like, for instance, I have a situation where I work at the Bronx Veteran Affairs. There's a docking station here in my area, near my area where I live today. But there might not be a docking station at the Veteran Affairs, and I have to leave it undocked securely. But and I'd like to know if there will be a surcharge for leaving it undocked.
So it does operate on like a time-based thing. It's like 35 minutes. So if you were within that range, you know, you like if you needed to like leave it there real quick, run into the Veterans Affairs and grab something and come back out, I guess you could do that within your 30-minute window. But if you need to take like a longer stopover than that, then it's sort of set up so you would just dock it at the closest station and then come back and get another bike whenever you're ready to make your trip elsewhere.
Would you be, Mr. Hope, would you be available to show us a location to the nearest docking station near the Veteran Affairs?
And where's the Veteran Affairs?
The Cambridge Heights,
It's
Cambridge
in
Road,
Kingsbridge Heights, Kingsbridge Road. The
and
next-
Webb Avenue.
Then Webb,
Cambridge Road and Webb Avenue.
Webb Avenue.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Kelly.
You're welcome.
Was it on the last slide?
It's like the southeast corner of our district,
It's
Okay,
this
Webb
slide that
Avenue.
you have right here. Is this?
Yep.
this
right
map,
below where you are now.
Right.
See, I
Literally
see.
the dark gray area.
So
On
the
the lower
closest one looks to be at Eames Place. If you,
Oh, I see.
unless there's some, I cannot see anything below there. I can't see the dotted map.
Oh,
below.
yeah. There's, this
Scroll
was
down.
this would be the southernmost station here.
Okay.
So,
So then that would be
Okay.
your closest one.
okay,
But
thank you. But, well, yeah, it's just that, it makes sense. So if you don't dock it, you will the meter continues to run and then it will charge the medium.
yeah, so depending on how long your stopover is gonna be, you might, you know, want to dock it.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you. Rosemary?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 3 questions. I would just suggest, let me just ask my 3 questions and be quiet and let the gentleman from DOT respond. It probably is the most efficient way to do it. Number 1, this plan that is now up on the screen, I would suggest that it go on the community board website. I understand you said it's on a DOT city website too, but I think since it's so specific to community board aid, it would be helpful for it to be on our website. And the question is this final? Is this it? Or is this still a proposal? Whatever it is, when it goes on the website, it should be clear what it is. This is a proposal still being considered, or this is it. Number 2, when it comes to the spaces in the street, you hear already there's a sensitivity to number of parking spaces taken. Do you have the number of parking spaces that would be eliminated for each of the sites that are in the street? And number 3, who determines the cost? In other words, if the cost, you gave 3 situations that can change over time, who is responsible for that? Is that the city council? Is it DOT? Who is responsible for raising those fees? Thank you.
All right. In order, yes, we will send you all the links to the presentation and this map, which you are more than welcome to, or I would encourage you to share with the community board members so we can get feedback on them. This is not our final plan. This is our draft plan, and we're here to like get feedback on these station locations. We usually like to give a month-ish timeline. So we'll send over these links. Holly will send them over. Please circulate them, give us feedback back to the Bronx Borough Commissioner's Office, which will then get back to our planners, and we'll try and incorporate any feedback that we get. And then we will be coming back after the summer break, I believe, to present the final plan again with the changes that we've made. And then for the cost, it is Lyft owns and operates the city bikes, and they set the cost. And I know that there are parameters established by DOT, which I don't know off the top of my head, but Lyft sort of works, they're in charge of the cost. So I hope I answered all your questions.
Or the number of parking spaces eliminated
Oh,
per
yes,
site that's in the street.
I do not have the number of parking spaces per site. But we usually do stations, these are gonna be our smallest stations in the system, I believe, in this area, nothing like we do in Midtown or Fidei. But you can see when we send a plan over the number of roadbeds versus sidewalk stations, I think we have a pretty even split here between the two.
Okay, but that didn't actually address the question. While I appreciate your response, if someone from DOT can actually tell us how many parking spaces will be eliminated based on the placement of these banks, that would be extremely helpful.
And
if you
I
can
think-
send it over, and if you can send it over sooner rather than later, it would be extremely helpful, meaning before the board goes on hiatus for the summer.
Yeah.
That is to say, the next 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, and I think what we could do is we'll go over the draft plan, but again, this is gonna be based on the draft plan, the number of parking lots, just so everybody's aware, right? Because this is not the.
That's
final.
fine. That's
Yeah.
that's all we have to work with right now,
We
but
can do that,
it is
absolutely.
very important that individuals understand this, because that may also impact someone's input into the revising of the plan.
Of course, we are taking a note of that, and we will get back to you with sort of like a letter with all of our other things that we're supposed to get back to you guys about with.
Perfect. Thank you. David Gelman, please.
Yes, thank you. I would note, Deb had mentioned you're having a bunch of stations at the trains, and actually, they're not trains, they're actually elevated subways, all of them. However, Community District 8, unlike almost all community of the 59 community boards within the city, we actually have 3 train stations: Riverdale, Spuyten Duyvil, and Marble Hill. And to be successful, and they are all basically west of Irwin Avenue or below in Marble Hill. But I would strongly urge you to have stations at each of the 3 of them, and that they be above the train station. Because of the hilly nature of Riverdale, the trains are down at the water level, but there are sort of overlooks at all 3 stations where you could put these things and people would just simply walk down 2 flights of stairs or 3 flights of stairs to get down to the train itself. But I think this would be a failure if you don't have docking stations at the 3 train stations.
Okay,
Metro North.
yes, I know we have one at the Marble Hill one, and then the other 2, I think, are east of our Irwin Avenue. But again, we'll like,
West of Irwin Avenue.
West,
Yes, Spuyten Duyvil and Riverdale.
that's right.
I strongly encourage you to have them at all 3.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Machuca. Is your hand
Uh,
up from before?
No.
You have another
thank you.
question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. From DOT, is it possible that when riding the bike share bike and there's a accident where the bike rider is involved, could bike share include a package for coverage, insurance coverage for like protection for, because it's kind of like a liability not to be covered. And I say this like going forward with the program, and perhaps it will be helpful in the future that bike riders are protected because of sudden accidents or casualties of other accidents or whatever may be the case. They can fall, they can scrape their legs with the bike themselves, and a protection will like an insurance protection plan in this system could be handy. Thank you.
I know we don't have that now. The system sort of operates as it would with your like a personal bike, but noted.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for New York City DOT on the bike share, the city bike program? Okay, with the committee members' permission, I would like to have Ms. Sylvia Alexander make an appeal to New York City DOT. Is that okay with everyone on the call, with the committee members? And then this way we can let New York City DOT go home.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Sylvia?
Yes, thank you. I just wish to bring up a sad situation that happened on West 235th Street and Oxford Avenue, which is up in Riverdale. A couple of months ago, a 99-year-old woman went from the west side of the street to the east side of the street and got hit by a car making a left turn and died. A couple of months ago, we had a meeting at one of the churches, and the Commissioner Rodriguez was there, and also the first Deputy Assistant Commissioner. And I brought it up that night, and I also spoke to them individually after the meeting, and they all said that they would look into it. Unbeknownst to me, DOT came and put some signals on 235th Street and Johnson Avenue so that the four corners of that intersection have crossing signals, which are sort of a half pole, and there's a button that you can press and it stops the traffic so you can go across. On the next corner, which is Oxford Avenue and 235th Street, we have a supermarket and a drugstore, which is where many of the people are crossing the street. That intersection only has four-way stops. And this morning I went to the supermarket and tried to cross, and everyone that was going east on 235th Street was not adhering to the stop sign that is clearly there so that I could make it across. I want to know why nothing is being done about that intersection. It looks like nothing is being done. They certainly came to the other corner. On K-Park Street, there's a woman also got killed. They put up a traffic light, and this particular corner is getting no attention whatsoever. And I would love to know who it is that I should call to move this along so that we can have some kind of safety there.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander, for that. This is Holly again from DOT. We will look into this. I will look into this tomorrow morning further, and I will follow up with the community board on this request.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. And Holly, please note that this was also raised with DOT at the March meeting where you all discussed City Bike, and Ms. Cruz indicated she would get back to us, and we have not received any comments from her, any response from her. Mary Ellen Gibbs and Deb Travis.
I just want to add to Sylvia's comments that somebody last week even was hit at that intersection really badly, and it was a hit and run. So I just wanted to add that to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
I just wanted to support what Sylvia is saying, that I've also been over there in the mornings, and the traffic doesn't really, the cars don't obey the stop signs. And so even an elevated intersection or something so that the walkers are more visible and it acts as a bit of a deterrent to just keep going would be, I think, helpful. And also just to remind everybody that Sedgwick Avenue and Van Cortlandt Avenue West still continues to be an intersection that needs a lot of help. There's school children cross that all school year long, and traffic is still making turns into pedestrians. So Thank you, and thank you, Sylvia, for raising this.
Welcome.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you, New York City DOT. We don't have anything more of you, so if you're welcome to stay on the call, but you can feel free to drop as well. Okay,
Thank you so much. I will send you all the link and the draft plan tomorrow.
okay, and you'll also get us the data on the number of parking spaces.
Yes.
Yes, and everything else.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
everyone
you.
so much.
And by the end of the week, you'll follow up with, well, by the middle of next week, you'll follow up with the office regarding the 235 and Oxford.
Oxford, yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Good
Good night.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you. Now we will go back in the agenda.
Kelly, I think Suri is trying to get your attention.
Hi, yes, Ms. Sura.
Thank you. I would.
Thank
hope-
you.
Before everybody from our officials, DOT, state and local, get off, I think that
State
they're
is
going.
staying on the call.
Oh,
Just New
okay.
York City is leaving. State is staying on the
uh,
call.
Yeah, but I think city ought to stay on the call also because I believe they will be relevant to some of the points I'd like to raise.
There
So
are additional
like-
members from DOT, New York City DOT, that are still on the call.
all right, so long as somebody is there who can speak to the issues. Thank you. I'll mute.
Thank you. The representatives from Veterans Radio Dispatcher, are you on the call?
Yes,
Ms. Tavares? Yes, please.
yes,
You are asking us to consider your license renewal? Can you?
yes, for our
give us some
license
background,
renewal.
please? Ms. Tavares, can you please
Yes.
give us some background on your license renewal?
Hold on.
please? Thank
Hold on.
Okay,
Ay. It's freezing. Hold on. Ay. No, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
Oh, no. I just still be interested for hearing all the instructions that you still be doing, and I'm appreciated, and I'm still be here because we still be renewing our base license right now. So that's why that we interested to be in the meeting today.
Okay, thank you. The dispatching company has been in business for approximately 25 years, yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
you were
before
formerly
using like
Bailey.
a Bailey's name, so they switched to veterans like a since 2015.
And what other types, you provide basic livery services to the community? Do you
Yes, that's for yes, for cabs, for everyone living around, for wheelchairs, helpers, and everything. So airports for the community for a long time ago.
Do you provide any medical accommodation support? So do you transport individuals to medical appointments?
Well, just only when they still we call us, yes. When the hospital, veterans, VA hospital, they call us, yes, we do.
Okay, and when you say VA hospital, they call you, are you referring to the individual, the patients themselves who pick up the red phone in the VA hospital? Or are you referring to
Correct.
the hospital staff that may call you and say that they have someone that needs assistance and you would take them through with various vouchers?
Oh,
Do you
no,
do
we
that?
got the automatically phones from there for those services for all of the patients for those hospitals.
Okay. Does any committee member have any questions for Ms. Tavares? Deb, proceed.
Thank you for being on the call, and thank you for being, one of our great local businesses. I wanted to know if your drivers own their own cars or if you own the vehicles. I know some companies work more as a dispatch where people are driving their own private cars and others provide the vehicles.
No, all of the drivers that we got like on copy with us, that's the TLC drivers. So we got like around no private car, none of them. Everyone's has to be the TLC and on the rules. So
Do they take the cars home with them or do you have to park them?
No, they still be call us for get the service to them.
Oh, I mean, for the
The
driver,
drivers, not the passengers.
not the passengers, for the drivers themselves.
Oh, no,
When
the
they're done
driver
with their
just
sh-
already, when they walk in and they still be interested to be a partner with us. So they just come with the old documentations and they still be on time of the base. But that's almost that's the same for a long time ago. So
So
frequently we do not have not much news one.
so do you provide the car then?
No, everyone has to get their own cars.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right, thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm sorry because I do not hear it. It's like it's so loud. That's why that I do not be paying attention so well.
It's okay. Thank you. No worries. Does any other committee member have any questions for Ms. Tavares? Does anyone from the community have any questions for Ms. Tavares? Okay, hearing no questions, then does any committee member oppose the recommendation for renewal of Veterans Radio Dispatcher's license? Okay, thank you. Then hearing nothing, we will make a recommendation to the full board to have your license renewed, and we will present it at the June 29 meeting, and someone from the office will get back to you. Okay?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm very appreciated.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Then we can move on to the next item on the agenda, which is New York State DOT update on the Henry Hudson Parkway project. Ms. Angela Salibi Garas is on the call from New York State DOT. Angela?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting us here today to talk about the Henry Hudson Parkway reconstruction and the buses that were rerouted. We have here also on the call Susan from construction, and we also have Naseem Ghani, who is from our design group. So we did meet, it looks like Megan's on the call too. I'll just give you a quick update on the latest regarding these buses. So we did have a phone conference with Megan Molina from MTA, some others from City Transit, and I believe there was also somebody from Metro North as well, just to discuss, any possible changes that could be done to Henry Hudson Parkway. And we did take a look again ourselves. It looks like there's about approximately 5 trees that are leaning into the roadway, which seem to be the biggest issue for the MTA buses. They're having trouble getting by due to those trees. And we got some feedback from Megan saying that in some areas, there seems to be about 10 feet of space available instead of the 11 feet. And as per our plans, we can leave 11 feet of space, although we can't take our work zone in any more than that, just because this work is very involved and they're reconstructing the whole wall. So we won't be able to leave more than that 11 feet, but we did say that we'll remeasure. Our contractor will remeasure, and any areas that we may not be providing the full 11 feet, we're going to make sure to do that. And then we'll get in contact again with Megan, and they're going to do a test drive to see if one of their buses could possibly go through on Henry Hudson Parkway with our work zone in place. And again, I believe we sent out construction notices. Our contractor was on site they began the week of June 5th, started putting up some signage, and yeah, so they already started setting up. So that project is underway.
And when do you anticipate you will have the proper distance secured so the buses can go through?
We did say we would try and to measure and get it done within 2 weeks after the meeting. If Susan may have a new update, she's on the call.
Within 2 weeks after what meeting? Today's meeting or your meeting that you?
No,
that you had?
our
Okay.
meeting with Megan.
Okay, and when was that?
That was on the 6th.
Okay, so by next week, you should be able to test the reconfiguration?
We should be, yeah.
So,
I'll just, yeah, I'll
May I-
let
may I-
Susan.
yes, so, from the field office, the contractor updated that he'll be adjusting the barrier to 11 feet by next Wednesday. He wasn't able to do that quite yet. Once the barrier has been adjusted to 11 feet, I will be contacting MTA to do a test run. And we'll see where we are at that point and see if we can make any other adjustments, whether it's, I will contact Megan at that point.
Okay, thank you. Deb Travis, followed by David Gelman.
Thank you. So I'm also the Parks Chair for Community Board 8, and so I have concern about the trees being struck by the buses. Have you been in contact at all with forestry and the Parks Department to get the trees on the list to be pruned?
If I could chime in here, my understanding is that a while back when New York City Transit was out there trying to see whether or not our buses could fit along the regular route, that's when we first realized that we were going to be coming into contact with the trees. And pruning did take place, but it's not a matter of pruning, it's the actual trunks are leaning into the roadway. And our understanding is, you know, the community cares about those trees. Those are not going to be trees that are going to be taken down. And so that's why we were trying to work with DOT to make sure that the travel lane is of a certain width. So with all that being said, you know, once they go out there and make any adjustments if they're needed, and we are able to test drive the 11-foot travel lane, there is a good chance that we're still going to have the issue with the pinch point that's being created by the trees, in which case we would have to maintain the detour that's already in place. So pruning is not going to help us here.
Right. I mean, the trees are also not going to be taken down. I think it's reasonable for us to expect the buses can go around the trees. So obviously we'll need to just hope that the moving of the barrier will reduce the pinch point so that the route can be restored, because that's also important.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Deb. David?
Yes, forgive me if I ask questions that you covered earlier, but actually I received a phone call from another part of DOT in New York State. But anyway, the question I asked of you folks last time, I introduced you to the people from MTA Bridges regarding their plans to change the pedestrian path on the lower level of the Henry Hudson Bridge, which is the next exit down. And the reason why it may be relevant to you, as I mentioned then, is because they are going to have to extend their ramp significantly when they do this. And that could have an impact on what you do at 232 and south. So have you spoken with them about it? And what have you come up with? And the other question I had asked, and we haven't heard back on, is when you are finished with all of your work on the body of the walls of the parkway, are you planning on replacing the stonework that lines the parkway throughout, given that the Henry Hudson Parkway is a New York State and National Scenic Highway? So 2 questions. Any takers from DOT?
Hello, thank you for those questions. So those, basically what I'm hearing is you want to know if it's part of the scope of work of the current project, those 2 items you listed. And Susan could probably speak a little bit more on that because she is the supervisor of the current construction project.
So I was not aware of any project. I don't know if Nassim is aware of any project on 232nd Street that would affect our project. Is that something Nassim would know from design?
Well, you are doing 232. What I'm talking about is the next exit below it. As it approaches in a couple hundred yards to the Henry Hudson Bridge. And that was discussed at the meeting because I brought the MTA people to it.
Nassim, could you share some light on that?
Yes, this is Nassim from State DOT from the design unit. As David is saying that, any other projects, from the DOT, not on this project, as David is mentioning, I'm not aware of, any projects from State DOT, adjacent to our projects at this point.
Okay, well, it was
Ms.
brought to your
Sura, I
attention
see it.
last time.
David, one moment, please. Ms. Sura, I see your hand, but David, please continue your statement.
That it was discussed at the previous meeting, and then my question about, and I think you took notice on this, Nassim, about these, the stone cladding, after you're done with repairing the concrete walls of the parkway. So two different questions.
So David, your two different questions. One is what do you call, you are asking that State DOT has any plan, in future, to, beyond our limit. That's your one of the questions, I believe.
Well, have you spoken with MTA Bridges about what they're planning on doing for the pedestrian path? Because it may have an impact on what you do at the southern reaches of your work. And then the second question is about the stone cladding of the walls.
Okay, as I know that, we did not contact with the MTA Bridges, on this project, related to what you are asking now. So I'm not aware of that one.
And with respect to the stone cladding of the concrete walls at the end of your work.
Yeah, that's actually, as David, as you are saying, that is not also within our project limits. Anything, coming up, upcoming projects from our end, I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
And you were not aware of it when it was brought to your attention 6 months ago.
Right.
We can look into that. Yes,
people
David,
were going to get back to us on what you
Yes.
were going to do on that.
Okay, we'll look into that again, okay?
And all right, and when will you get
When will
back
you
to
get
us
back
on
to
that?
us?
Say another, 2 weeks from now.
Very good. Thank you
If
so
can
much.
get back to us within 2 weeks on both the stone cladding and on the pedestrian bridge, the integration of the pedestrian walkway. So you need to please reach out to MTA on their bridge project to get that information. Because that is going to impact your project.
Sure.
Correct. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Ms. Sura, followed by Rosemary Ginty, followed by Mary Ellen Gibbs, followed by Madeline Dickens.
Boy, it's a busy evening. I'm not certain which of the various DOTs will be most relevant, but let me just express my concerns about my particular block, which I spoke about at a previous meeting. I think it was in February. I live on the Independence block between West 231st and West 232nd, which is being used now to reroute all the buses that are not able to go on Henry Hudson Parkway. So I do understand that if the reconfiguration of Henry Hudson Parkway does take place and the buses are rerouted, everything I'm going to say is moot. However, if it is not, and I would not be surprised if you continue to maintain this route or this detour, there are safety issues that have simply been, I don't know if ignored or simply not realized. The block itself, and I live on it, so I'm very familiar with it, is narrow. There's no parking on it. Because it is narrow, it is twisty, and there is effectively no pathway, no single pathway for pedestrians to go along the entirety of the block and get out of the way of two-directional traffic. We have school kids in the morning. We see many, many, many more around the 2:15, 3:15 dismissals. I see parents walking with baby carriages who are dodging buses. I sent a series of photos both to Laura and to the community board office showing just how difficult and potentially dangerous the road is. And I had suggested actually with Laura, and I assume she shared it with the committee, three suggestions perhaps. First of all, the two intersections at West 231st and West 232nd are extremely difficult. We see a lot of congestion where buses are trying to go through a narrow intersection at the same time. Sometimes just one bus will be coming south while traffic does not hold courteously far enough away to allow the bus to come through. And there's a tremendous amount of honking and annoyance just taking place. West 231st does not have good line of sight. And I would suggest that at some point, somebody from DOT or the police department, whoever's involved, should be directing traffic at high traffic times, which is the morning and probably around the 3 o'clock period. The second thing, which I have tried to do to absolutely no avail, is to prevail upon Lehman College, which is a public institution and owns the piece of property where there is no pathway from my property all the way to 231st, to implore them. It is not legally required, but to implore them to move their hedges back a bit. They have, I mean, I'm a gardener. I have a pretty fair idea of the cost of things. It would not be very expensive for them to move the hedges back about 3 feet, give pedestrians an entire walkway from West 231st to my property, which also has a walkway that I put in from the middle of the block to West 232nd. And the last suggestion, and I think city DOT would be required to be involved with this, is that temporarily, if you could only turn the block, presumably Independence, from West 231st to Kapok Street in one direction south, we will no longer have two directional traffic competing on this terrible block. It's a lovely block to live on, but it's a hellish block to navigate. So I hope I've been clear about the problem and my suggested solutions. As I say, I reached out both to Lehman College's president, who has ignored me, and I reached out to the CUNY Board of Trustees with a letter with a return receipt and have never received a reply. I think the moral force of the community board would be very helpful in asking them to simply try to help out the community on issues of safety. I don't want to see blood on the street. So thank you for your consideration. And if I have not been clear or there's additional information you would like, I will not be getting off the call that fast.
Thank you. Can someone from DOT respond to Ms. Sura, please?
Hi, Mr. Thank you. I've noted everything that you said here. I have it in my notes. And so we'll look into some of this. I can possibly contact City DOT as well. So I have it here in my notes. Thank you for those suggestions.
Thank you. Rosemary Ginty, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the trees, I didn't think we were going to hear anything about the trees in this meeting. One of the last times we had New York State DOT come, it was switching the buses off of Henry Hudson Parkway West and putting them on Independence. And I pointed out that the damage that was done to all of the trees right down to 232nd Street, it looked like a cyclone hit, okay? Branches were ripped off, trees have been damaged. I asked if they would if somebody who knew trees could take a look and see how damaged they were. Is there something that could be done to the damage that was already done to the trees? The gentleman, I forget his name, said he would. We've heard nothing. We have heard nothing. I still ask that. Damage was done to those trees. He told me that somebody would come and take a look at what the damage was and report what the damage is. Okay, but really my question is, I thought we'd hear about the project. Where are you New York State DOT with the project. What is the work? When is it going to start? What days are you going to do it? What hours are you going to do? What areas are you going to start with? This is the meat and potatoes for this community. The original presentation on this project said that work would be from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Monday to Friday. That's what was said to us. That is before you had a contractor and everything. I am sure things are becoming firmer with your agency now as to what the project will be. Those are the things that I think, well, certainly I would like to see, and I think the adjacent neighborhood and community here would like to see. Just two points to show, and these are not the biggest, but a couple of weeks ago, you were doing work out there. You started at 3 o'clock in the morning, okay? Everyone was awakened at 3 o'clock in the morning and went on for whatever, an hour, 2 hours, whatever. I thought that was the beginning of it, not knowing anything about where the project stood. I use that as an example. You started the heavy machinery at 3 o'clock in the morning. What is your plan going forward with the work? The second statement is you are closing exits now. You cannot exit to 232nd Street for a number of hours on each day. As a result, Henry Hudson Parkway Service Road is jammed with traffic who want to come down and make the turn or they have to get off the highway earlier. Again, that is an issue that has an effect on I'm not saying you have to do it, I understand, but what's your plan? Can you describe what hours you're going to close those exits? When are you going to do the work? When is it going to start? Can we, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm going, but you get my point. What is the plan? Can we get a specific plan? Thank you.
So I'll speak on the project. The contractor began work, as I said, 2 weeks ago. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
please proceed, Susan.
The contractor mobilized and started work 2 weeks ago. I'm not aware of this contractor doing any work during the nighttime hours. I am aware, though, that there was a contractor that put a steel plate at a catch basin that was having some issues at the base of underneath the bridge on 232nd Street. Perhaps that is what you heard, because there was a steel plate for a catch basin that had problems. I think the DEP put the steel plate. That is going to probably be done under some other contract. We will not be addressing that catch basin that has the steel plate over it. This contractor will only be working during the day. We have a New York City DOT permit where he will be working, the typical hours, 7 to 3:30. And the permit only allows for lane closures on the parkway between 10 and 3:30. So the contractor will be on site 7 a.m., may close a lane on the parkway at 10. He also will be needing to close the exit ramp to do the work. I believe, I'm not clear on the hours that he is allowed to close the ramp. I can check the permit and get back to you, but that is something he needs to do. All this work the plan is to be done during the weekdays, not during the weekends, nor nighttime. There is no plan to do that right now. The plan was, because of the emergency work that was set up during the winter, right now there is a work zone established, which the contractor is going to start attacking the project from both sides. That's what his schedule and his look ahead shows. So you will see saw cuts work up on the service road, and you will see work down on the parkway. He's going to be starting to saw cut, remove parts of the wall on the parkway, on the service road. On the parkway, you will see large equipment where he's going to be doing tiebacks, which will stabilize the retaining wall that's in place. Once the retaining wall is stabilized, they will start constructing a new wall in front of the old wall going up. They are going to be removing the barrier on top Once the wall is established, putting a new barrier and moment slab up on the service road. That's what you will see constructed. Once that work is done, the new wall is constructed with a new barrier that you'll see, a new moment slab. They will be resurfacing and putting new asphalt pavement on the service road to make it, a nice rideable surface. That's the work that should happen. This contractor is ready to go. He has the project planned out. We have his baseline schedule. He is optimistic if all goes well with unforeseen obstacles that, can be encountered in large construction projects such as these. He's hoping to have this project expedited. But he does need the work area. He does need to be in there. And, he is planning to work gentleman hours. I had heard that there was a contractor working at night. That was not this contractor on this project at all. And I can assure you of that. Did I answer your questions or?
No, I thank you very much. Rest assured, 3 o'clock in the morning, when half the building was awakened for hours with work, it was not the drainage thing. That happened a month and a half ago with one of the heavy rains, okay? It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with the equipment that you have staged out there now. It's behind like the barrier. It's all your equipment that was pulled out for 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm glad to hear no more night work. If there were a contractor that came and did that, you're unaware of it and you're not aware of any other night work. That is very good news, and I thank you for that. Is your plan, written down someplace? When's it going to start? How many months? What's it going to take? Is it written? Is the plan written someplace? And I will stop. Madam Chair, I thank you for your indulgence to just let me ask these questions.
We have
No
a tentative schedule from, yes, we have a tentative schedule from the contractor.
Okay, and can that tentative schedule be shared with the community?
It's something that, I could possibly share. I'll follow up with my office.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mary Ellen Gibbs, then Madeline Dickens.
Hi, one of the questions I had was, the MTA, what is the last stop before it turns on South Side for the express buses to go, before it turns onto Independence Avenue?
I
Is it
will
239 Street?
I will share a map that we've created. This detour has been in effect for a while now, ever since the concrete barriers were put into effect there. And so initially we had a map that was available indicating that the buses would be making requested stops along Independence until we noticed that this was going to be a more longer term detour. And then we established temporary stops that are in effect now. So the map that we have available on our MyMTA app, and also when you look up our plan service changes on our website, is there, and it's been updated to reflect the temporary stops. So I will send this over to the board just so that it's available and list that out, and then that can be shared with members. Does that help?
Yes, thank you very much. My other thing was referring to already what David Gelman had said about that stone wall. Back in September, when you were showing your plan on what you were going to be doing, replacing the wall and everything, it was asked of you how you would be replacing that on the overpass, and you said a smooth wall, and that's when it came up about the stone wall, that it had to be replaced with the stone scenic wall. So that was definitely brought up in September, and I think another time after that also.
It was brought up in September and in February.
Right, and when I said that another time as well.
Right.
And also as far as the traffic, and you said the high traffic on Independence Avenue, if maybe to get some kind of traffic with the police officers over there, I'd be happy to bring that up at the public safety meeting, because I'm on that committee as well. So I'll bring that up as well, but I wouldn't want to see a flat wall go up on that overpass, because it is a scenic wall, and the stone was definitely said to us that it will be replaced as such. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Madeline Dickens, followed by Mr. JK.
Yes, good evening. The lady said that she had, they had plans for how long this project was going to go on, but would not reveal what the estimated time was. It has been 5 months that all these detours and inconveniences to the neighborhood have been in place with no work whatsoever being done. 5 months. Now, suddenly 2 weeks ago, there's equipment out there, but they still can't say how long it's going to take. And the safety issues on Independence are just horrendous, with almost, head-on collisions because buses are coming and cars coming up from K-Pop can't be seen. But how long is this going to go on? It's already 5 months with no work being done. Why did they set up all those detours and rerouting if there wasn't a plan in place to begin the work? That is just an outrageous inconvenience for this neighborhood, putting a lot of people in safety issues. There's a gentleman I see all the time on a motorized wheelchair around Independence. Where's this poor guy supposed to go? This is ridiculous.
I believe the barrier was put out due to safety concerns for the stability of the retaining wall on both the Parkway and on the service road. We needed to lighten the load for the wall because we are concerned about the collapse of the wall. This project has been been planned for quite a long time, and during the winter months, we noticed that the wall was tilting, and we were worried about collapse, and that is why we had an emergency work order to place the barrier for the safety of the community.
Okay, well, that makes sense, but then why didn't you just begin the work and not wait 5 months?
We couldn't do that until we had a contract, to let a contract, and that procurement takes a while. The plans were in design at that point, and the project was put out to bid during the winter months. The project was let in the early spring, and we have a contractor on board now. So the contractor is ready to go, as I said. He is mobilized, and you see him on site. So the project.
Because I walk to work there and back every day along Henry Hudson Parkway, and all these months of nothing happening. And now you're being incredibly evasive about how long? 3 months, 5 months, a year?
Project completion date we have on record as September 2024.
Yeah.
But what I'm telling you is that
Oh my God.
What I'm telling you is this contractor is ready to go. He has a large work area. We're optimistic that this project will be completed earlier.
I certainly hope so. I mean, they replaced the Oakland Bridge in 4 months. I can't believe they can't do a stretch of wall like that in less than a year and a half. It's just crazy.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dickens. So Susan, you're indicating that the project is not projected to go over the initial plan at the initial time that was allotted for the project?
Well, currently the project completion date given to the contractor was September 2024.
Okay.
So, but the contractor is optimistic and he is ready to go. He has a very good work area. He seems to be, has a good plan of attack. We're optimistic that it'll be done sooner than the September 2024 date.
Thank you. Mr.
And I will try and get you a tentative schedule.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. JK?
Yes, hi, thank you. I appreciate you taking my question, and it's for the DOT, if you will. This community has worked very hard getting some moped traffic signs up on that walkway that by in between Manhattan College Parkway and Irwin Avenue, that Kelly Building walkway, because it's been notorious for motorized bikes and motorcycles using that as a roadway. And it's still just equally as dangerous. We thank the department of putting up some signage. There's like, it says no mopeds and a big red spot.
But doesn't say anything about DOT.
Yeah, I was wondering, how can it be better enforced? Because there really is no change as to this type of dangerous traffic going through there. And also, having bikes on Irwin Avenue using that pathway is just going to add to that mess as well. That's just a sidebar. That's not too thrilling for a lot of people in the community. But the signage, how could it be better signed, and how could it be better enforced? Because even though you have worked and got some signage up there, it's made no difference, or very, very little difference. It's still hard for a person just to walk up there without jumping out of the way of a motorized bike. So what could be done about that?
And also DOT,
Okay.
sorry,
Excuse me, we were on the Henry Hudson Parkway subject, so I thought that was what your question was related to. Your questions are for New York City DOT, and we will raise your issues with New York City DOT.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And
Thank
when
you.
will that be raised?
We will contact New York City DOT with your questions and get a response. And then if you could send the office your email address, we will respond to you directly. Okay?
Okay, how long do you think that would take? So I just get an idea.
Roughly about approximately 2 weeks. We should have at least a base answer for you. And if it requires more study, then we can move forward after that. Okay?
Thank
and
you.
if you could also add that there was, DOT had promised a sign to be put, a stop sign to be put on 240th Street on Irwin. There are tons and tons, people are getting hit, cars are getting hit. There's just, this is years. We're still waiting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any questions regarding the Henry Hudson Parkway project? Okay. Mr. Machuca, do you have a question regarding Henry Hudson Parkway? Is this another issue?
I would like to know if I should leave it for new business.
If it's not related to this project that we're discussing right now, then you should hold it for a couple of minutes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you. Ms. Sura?
Thank you. I just want to tell all the various people here from New York State DOT and City DOT and MTA that I am available to meet with them, to show them everything on this block, and I would welcome an actual visit just to show them exactly what's going on, so it's not just this theoretical, dangerous block. Obviously, you all have my contact information down at the community board, and I suggest that anybody who wants to reach me, reach out to you and get the contact info. And that's all I wanted to say. And I thank you very much for all your courtesy this evening, Ms. Buford.
Oh, no, thank you. We appreciate your input. Thank you very much and appreciate your offer of help. Thank
Can
you.
we-
Yes,
Just
David.
Very briefly, in as much as Sura has raised some very important concerns about the sidewalks and all that, I just want to thank DOT for paving that zigzag of Independence, 232 Independence. As a cyclist, it's vastly improved. I'm sure you did it for the buses, but I'm thankful nonetheless. And I look forward to how you might resolve things with what Sura has been talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. See,
Can
not all bad responses here. Yes, Megan.
If I may, I just want to chime in quickly before you move on to other items. I just want to, let the members know that I am aware of the safety concerns along Independence Avenue. It's been brought to my attention by the community board, by the assembly member, by the council member. And it's for those reasons that we really want our buses to go back on the regular route. We know it's not safe for our customers, it's not safe for residents, pedestrians in the area, but we do have to work with DOT in terms of what they're able to maintain with that travel lane. So there are constraints here, but we're doing our best. If it helps for folks to know, our Bronx Road operations, they have been looped into this. They've been out to the field plenty of times. Our operations planning team has been into the field plenty of times. So, we're aware of the situation and we are increasing patrol from Bronx Road so that they can observe conditions. To the extent that we can get some support with navigating traffic in the area, that might help because Bronxport does not have that capacity, but they are at least able to observe and report on certain conditions. But we have to work with what's in our toolkit here, because the other option would be to propose an alternative detour that would actually create a really big service gap in the area, which would impact customers on that front too. So I just wanted to put that out there so that folks have an understanding of the complexity here. But I do appreciate your patience as we try to figure it out.
Thank you, Megan. Much appreciated. Yes, David.
Megan, since you raised it, it's actually very interesting. I don't know how the neighbors feel about the traffic flow, but it actually seems to me to make more sense to have the buses on Independence, because then you're in the middle of the residences for people to have a quicker walk to the bus. Now, Henry Hudson Parkway is better suited for a higher volume, there's no doubt, but it's just a consideration.
Thank you, David. In most cases, we tend to hear from residents that they prefer not to have the buses so close to the residential areas, but definitely understand where you're coming from at that point.
And I understand their concern. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Anything else for the Henry Hudson Parkway project?
Hi, this is Angela on again. Sorry, I got kicked off on the laptop. I had to call via phone. I just wanted to wrap up a couple points quickly just to make sure that I can get back to Community Board 8 with the questions that were raised and just to clarify everything that was said. So on my end, we discussed that our contractor would be able to probably make sure that there's 11 feet of space available by June 20th. So we will get back to MTA by that date, and then they will, I guess, send a bus out to test the route and see if it works out. And then we can get back to you and give you an update as well. And I believe there were two other questions that were raised that had not been brought to my attention before. Someone from our design team may have been present at a previous meeting.
Right.
And one of them.
The first question related to the stone on the parkway.
Stone cladding on the parkway, correct.
Right.
So I'll look into that.
Because it's a registered landmark.
And all the other bridges along the way have them.
Right. And then the other question related to the MTA Bridge project, which will also abut the project that you're doing, because the pedestrian pathway comes up to 232, and we want to know how you're working with them to sort of make sure there's a seamless process for pedestrians using them.
Okay, so we'll reach out on our own, and we'll make sure that that it's, there's no conflict between the MTA Bridge projects and our projects. And I believe those are the only questions brought to our attention. So we'll definitely get back to you and see if that works out. The 11 feet of space is enough. And Susan kind of gave you all a tentative schedule understanding of work hours, 7 a.m. to 3:30 generally. And generally we won't be working weekdays and nights, but I'll get back to my colleagues and see if we can send you guys a tentative schedule as well. And like I said, we sent a construction notice out, and on the construction notice, the end date was September 2024, but the contractor does hope to finish before that. But that's the date that was put out there and already sent out on our notices.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to follow up. That's the contractual completion date of the contract. And I was to follow up as well for the exit ramp closures. I'll follow up and let you know what the hours for the exit ramp closures are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Kelly, in addition to what Angela just mentioned, this is Nasim Ghani from Design Unit. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please proceed.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, as Angela mentioned that, from the design, David asked about the two questions. I just want to, clarify that, Angela, we understand clearly. So I know that in a minutes of meeting, it takes a little time, is any way we can get actually the state DOT concerns, that the topics we discussed from your end, so that we can get, the right information and provide you the answer. And as I promised to you that, we're going to be giving this answer within 2 weeks. I just realized that, it might take a little while because we need to contact the MTA Bridges about their project. And as David mentioned that, how it's going to impact, to our projects. So it might take, a little while, just let you know that,
Well,
instead of 2 weeks, it might take a little longer, okay?
I'm okay if it's taking longer, provided that you're showing the community that you're actively communicating with them, and you come back to us within 2 weeks and give us a status as to where you are with your interactions with MTA Bridges.
Okay, that's fine. And the first questions, and as David mentioned about the stone, on the parkway, and as you know that it is historical, parkway, as you mentioned, you are referring, the other projects, not this project, right?
No,
Am I
we are
true?
not referencing other projects. We are referencing this project when you came and you presented in person at St. Margaret's of Portona in September of 2022. And then one of your colleagues came back to present to give us an update on the project in February of this year, and it was raised then. That is what we are speaking to. We are not speaking to anything else. We're just advising you that that stone cladding is consistent the entire length of the parkway once it transfers over to the Sawmill Parkway, and then other state roads past that, because it's part of the historical component of that thoroughfare. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. One thing, just Kelly, if you remember, I did the presentation, which is in September 2022. We send you the the PowerPoint presentation also to you, and I'm not aware of that the February, Angela, that February 19th is anyone promised about the stone, that we're gonna
It wasn't
be working.
that no one promised. We asked the same question that we asked of you in September. If you have a plan for restoration of that stone, and here we are. We're 9 months later, and we still have not received the response to that initial question.
Okay. All right. We'll get back to you.
Yes, we'll definitely look into it and send a response as well.
And Naseem, it's Patrick Keenan is the engineering director of the MTA Bridge. I can get you the details if you like. Patrick Keenan, Keenan, engineering director of the Henry Hudson Bridge.
You're muted,
Thank
Naseem.
you. We appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Deb Travis, followed by Mary Ellen Gibbs.
I just want to kind of clarify though, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what his name is. He was just speaking.
Mr. Naseem.
Mr. Naseem.
Dani.
When he was presenting on this originally back in 2022, and this question came up, what I remember him saying was that this contract was to it was repairing the bridge, but it wasn't upgrading the bridge, and that he pulled up a Zoom, or not Zoom, Google Maps, and we dropped the little guy down, and it was that little section of the bridge was plaster for whatever reason. I know it should be stone, I agree, but he said at the time that it was going to be like for like, that whatever was stone cladding now would remain stone cladding, and if it wasn't stone cladded, it wouldn't be. So it might be worth asking another question, or asking the similar question in a different way, which is, what do we need to do? Like, is this something that Assemblymember Dinowitz could fund as an upgrade, or as a restoration of this bridge, so that the whole thing is stone? Because I feel like this question has been asked and answered as far as for this project, that it's like for like, but that I think we're all in agreement that it would be better stone.
No, that's not so. He said he would get back to us about the stone cladding. He did say that both times. You can go to the recording.
That's not how I remember it, but I can check. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, David. Mary Ellen, please.
I remember that meeting very clearly, because my question was directly to you about the stone wall, because of your display of putting up that plaster on the bridge, and I was very clear about that stone, and it has to be restored back to what it naturally was, but with the stone wall, and not and have like not modern, because it would be horrible, and back to the stone because it is a scenic parkway and it has to remain that way. So it was definitely, because remember I introduced myself because my family member works with in construction. So we definitely met each other. So you remember me. So it was definitely said.
Yes, I do remember,
Right,
you know,
my brother
but
Jerry's there.
as David mentioned that, you know, what you call, as I remember that, I'm just recollecting my memories, you know, I could be wrong, but as I remember that what David is saying that, you know, we're gonna look into that, but I don't think so. We promised anything on that particular presentation that it will be replaced by the stone. I don't
This is
think
the
so.
third meeting that we're looking into, and if nobody brought it up,
That's
we'd have a flat plaster wall again, so it has to be really addressed, so to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on the Henry Hudson Bridge project? Okay. Thank you, everyone that presented and spoke on this project. And we look forward to receiving your responses within the next 2 weeks. Even if your response is, we're still working on it, but it lets us know that you are working on it and we will continue to hold you accountable. So thank you. And look forward to receiving all the plans that you promised. And then we can move on. And I wish you a great evening. You're welcome to stay on the call, but you're not obligated to do so at this point. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Community Board 2, and Kelly and all others.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
We can then move on to old business. Is there any old business that anyone wishes to raise? I know, Ms. Sylvia, we spoke about the 235 in Oxford Avenue, and we'll record that under old business. Is there any other old business that a committee member wishes to raise at this time? Okay, hearing nothing then, Mr. Machuca, you have a new business item that you would like to bring before us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This actually began a long time ago in 2007. But to say the least, I was able to request, and the Department of Transportation was very kind to install pedestrian signs, speed bumps, and made Ames Place from a two-way street to a one-way street from my request to the then Department of Transportation Commissioner Constant Morin. And I would like to know, because it relates to a residence that I used to live there since '98 up until January 1st, 2022, when I moved from there. And the residence no longer there, is being developed. And I can't say much because I'm not part of that development. My father sold the house to a developer. And the question is, will the items in the traffic signs that were installed there in the Ames Place and wherever on the section of Ames Place, because of this development, will they, after the development, if the developer options to remove them, will the board have a say in preserving them? Or is the Department of Transportation kind of like, will preserve them anyway? I don't know. I just want to know because they're very dear to me.
I don't know what you mean by preserving them, and I don't know what signs you're speaking of. If it's a DOT, if it's a DOT sign that has to do with the traffic pattern, and it's still the rule for that street, then that traffic sign would need to stay. So I don't know what you're referring to.
So Kelly, I may be able to provide a little bit of context because Elvis was advocating for a stop sign, and also he advocated for a stop sign and got it installed at the corner of Eames Place and Sedgwick. He was also advocating in 2021, 2022, when I was the chair of TNT, to have the
Eames and Sedgwick or Eames and Webb, because Eames doesn't go across the Sedgwick.
I'm sorry, Eames and Webb. He was advocating for it to be one way, right, Elvis? For Eames Place to be one way. And so that information was given to DOT, but I think that thing that he, and we received no response really from it. But right now, I think he's just concerned about losing the stop sign, which to your point, if DOT has installed it, it's irrelevant what the developer thinks. The change of ownership of your home, your former home, would not impact the stop sign.
Thank you.
Yep, no, totally happy to help.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Deb.
Thank you, Elvis, for your question, and thank you, Deb, for the clarity. Okay, is there any other new business to come before the committee? If there's no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I make a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. To the committee members and the community members, look forward to seeing you on June 29th. Thank you so much. Have a great one. Take care. Bye-bye.